I chatted with Steve Merlo a while back about his upcoming feature-length fan film paying homage to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Merlo was an avid fan of the original TCM, and after finding the films spawned from that original lacking, he decided to take the bull by the horns and make his own film, a prequel to TCM called The Sawyer Massacre. Released a few weeks ago, I'm finally catching up from the Halloween glut to check out Steve Merlo's The Sawyer Massacre. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals, click subscribe to this channel, and ring that bell for notifications. The Sawyer Massacre is now playing on YouTube. It's directed and written by Steve Merlo. A group of people are herded to the home of Grandpa Sawyer, where his family, including the chainsaw-wielding butcher named Leatherface, murder and process tourists as the main ingredient for their sweet, sweet barbecue meats. In many ways, the Sawyer Massacre follows the typical template of what we have come to know and love about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. There's a process to it all, a sort of machine made of members of the Sawyer family where, like cattle from the field to the slaughterhouse, they herd tourists who find themselves on a typical long, lonely road in Texas in need of supplies and food. These people are led to the Sawyer house and then slaughtered by Leatherface. In the past, in order to be distinct, the story has veered away from this concept in hopes to be different and add another layer to the original. But Merlo simply honors the original by expanding the cast of cattle to be massacred and giving us a story that occurs almost a decade before we meet the Sawyers in Tobe Hooper's classic. This means that the family is quite younger than when we first met them, including Grandpa himself, who is much more conscious and with it than what we've seen in the past. While his face is obscured most of the time and often done in extreme close-up, Les Best brings a menace that we haven't seen before in this series. He's definitely the one calling the shots and showing his approval and disappointment when his kin succeed and fail. While Grandpa is diminished in later versions, his performance makes it clear why they hold Grandpa in such reverence in the original film. There's an interesting choice to the cook, aka Drayton Sawyer character, played by Bill Housekeeper, which was brought to life with iconic devilish glee by Jim Sidow in the original. Housekeeper plays the cook with some humanity. He's not keen on the direction things are going, and while he was always one who never took part in the killing, the sadism that occurs in the original film isn't really there yet. Again, this is a story that takes place 10 years before the original, so it shows an evolution of the character who might have been redeemable at one point. Unfortunately, the character of Schizo, aka Nubbins, aka the Hitchhiker, played by Vitor Pericini, plays a very small role in the Sawyer Massacre. He shows up for one scene and does a decent job of playing the manic roadside lunatic, but doesn't figure into the rest of the plot. If anything, it was great seeing him, and the actor seemed to be able to harness that manic energy that the original Edwin Neal did. As brief as it was, I kind of wish Pericini would have been given a bigger role in this movie. What's a chainsaw film without a new family member? And this one comes in the conniving form of Rex, played by William Instone. Rex is the entrepreneur of the family, luring the victims to the house with promises of food and supplies. Rex has a strong presence in this story, taking the place of the more all-over-the-place Hitchhiker. It really feels like thought was put into the mechanism of the Sawyer murder machine, as the film highlights the beginning of the blueprint of the slaughter model with Rex's ideas and Grandpa's guidance. When we catch up with the Sawyers in Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the family is quite rudderless, functioning on what seems to be an established blueprint that has been tried and true through the years. But the fact that Rex is gone and Grandpa is barely there in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Sawyer machine, like the slaughterhouse industry the Hitchhiker comments about in the original, is in disarray and decay. It's nice to see this earlier version in the Sawyer Massacre, where the blueprint of this murder house is being drafted. That leaves Leatherface himself, played by Scotty Parkin, Parkin has the size and heft of Gunnar Hansen, and even gets a lot of the mannerisms, such as Leatherface's nervousness and perverse appreciation of female flesh, right. He even gets the chainsaw dance down correctly. Still, it seems like out of all of the characters, he's the one that hasn't changed over the years. I would have kind of liked to see what Merlot's thoughts were on an earlier version of Leatherface would be, although then he wouldn't have been able to deliver the iconic Leatherface we all know and love. The Sawyer family looks grimy and gritty. It conveys that this is not a clean and tidy world the family lives in. The house is almost too run down, and while it reflects the house we saw in the original film, I wonder what it would have been like if Merlo was to show the home when it saw better days. Still, the grime and grossness that filled the original's home is present and accounted for in this prequel. The entire way this film looks gives the feeling that this one was filmed through a very filthy lens. There's a grindhouse stank with overblown lighting and shaky camera work that makes this film feel like it was made in a dangerous era, in a dangerous place, by dangerous people. If there's a weakness to the Sawyer family, it's in the story department. The film gets repetitious midway through as it seems an almost comical amount of people are guided to the Sawyer house. First, our main group of kids show up, then a family of 4, and then out of the blue, a random lady shows up just to be killed. This makes for a large body count, but seeing them all together felt kind of unnecessary and overblown. I think had there been less people, the kills would have counted a bit more. Instead, the kills occur, and then you just move on to the next on the chopping block, making these kills resonate less than they could have. There's some strong acting going on in the Sawyer Massacre, and then there isn't at times. It is indeed a fan-made film. It's apparent some of the cast are not experienced actors, yet the good definitely outweighs the bad. I think Steve Merlo has accomplished something special with the Sawyer family. It's definitely a love letter to the Tobe Hooper classic, but there's an understanding of the film that feels authentic, detailed, and genuine. While it isn't as flashy as most of the quote-unquote in-canon remakes, and the Sawyer family may lag in the middle a bit, it's still a bloody and gritty prequel that feels like it was made in the same era as the original. The ending is especially wicked, giving an homage to the original, yet Merlo places his own unique stamp on the series. If you're a fan of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, this fan film from Steve Merlo is going to be on your must-see list, and you can see it for free now on YouTube. So go check it out. The link to the film is down below.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that